It's time for Bank on It. Ryan Grubb, hired as Alabama's offensive coordinator, should terrify other schools, including SEC rivals. So that's Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank member FDIC. Life made better. Caleb Calhoun, why do you say that in a column that I will go ahead and drop on the message board? But you believe firmly that this is a monster hire by Alabama and it should scare other SEC coaches. Why?
Yes. And I've maintained for a while that everybody jumped the gun on Alabama, on Kalen DeBoer, because of the issues. I said from the start they would have a bad year because did I not say this time last year Jalen Milroe was a bad fit for their offense?
Yes.
When Kalen DeBoer left Washington, he went to Alabama, and Ryan Grubb was his offensive coordinator at Washington. Ryan Grubb didn't follow him. Grubb decided to stay in Washington and be the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. In response to that, Kalen DeBoer hired Nick Sheridan and Jamarcus Shepard as co-offensive coordinators. For those who don't know, Nick Sheridan had been fired by Indiana for lack of productivity. So Kalen DeBoer was kind of just a scramble together hire. And then Jamarcus Shepard was in his first year as an offensive coordinator. I'm thinking this was the plan all along for them to eventually bring Ryan Grubb down from Washington. And truth be told, when you consider what they did at Washington, where Ryan Grubb was as much a part of putting together this cutting-edge air raid that they developed at Sweet Falls together like 15 years ago, he is to Kalen DeBoer what David Cutcliffe was to Philip Fulmer, what we think Alex Golesh was to Josh Heupel, where he's the other guy in the room that sees the field from a different angle. So he and DeBoer work together on these things. And that's a huge deal. When you combine it with the fact that Jalen Milroe was gone, and I don't know if anybody watched some of the Senior Bowl stuff over the weekend, but Jalen Milroe's draft stock is falling and falling fast because, spoiler alert, he's not a good quarterback. And DeBoer kept him on just to keep the team together and was just trying to stay afloat and stay above water. When you combine the fact that DeBoer has the quarterback he wants, because one of these guys that is now in Alabama system is bound to work out, and when you combine that with the fact that Ryan Grubb is now back with Alabama, yes, SEC rivals should be terrified, most notably Tennessee. Tim Banks' defensive scheme that beat Alabama this past year, where they played the high safeties and brought pressure from the edges, and Jalen Milroe was useless, that won't be a thing this upcoming year, guys.
I have to be honest with something you said just then, and that is just having another guy that you respect equally to bounce stuff off of. And I don't know Grubb, and I don't know their relationship per se, but you think DeBoer, if he's bringing him in for that type of cash, has that relationship with him. It feels like Joey Halsey just kind of was standing on third and thought he hit a triple.
Yes. I don't think Joey Halsey. I think Josh Heupel thought he hit a triple, honestly.
No, I think no. That's a saying for you kind of lucked out into something, but you may have been walked around the bases. So I think Halsey's standing on third, like, oh, I had a triple. Maybe not. Maybe you were walked around the bases.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you on that, but Halsey does seem aware of that. That's why he seems scared to push back on Josh Heupel on anything. He's not an extra mind in the room. And that causes issues. You know this, Dave. I mean, yeah, we've talked about it before. During the Fulmer Cutcliffe years, Fulmer and Cutcliffe both had collective ideas of what they wanted the offense to be, right? But with Fulmer and Sanders, Fulmer won out every time, didn't he? Randy Sanders never won a battle with Philip Fulmer in terms of what they wanted to do.
No. Okay, so are you telling me that more of Alabama's players could gravitate towards the offensive side because they have Grubb, who's in place now as offensive coordinator? Because make no doubt about it, you can rip Randy Sanders' play calling and game prep all you want to, but it was the fact that he didn't have as much talent as Tennessee once thought they had. And basically, what other than Jason Witten, I can't think of any battle that he won. As far as personnel, give me one.
Oh, I can't think of one either. No, you're right. He didn't win almost any battles with John Chavis, and that's a great point. And I think I don't think it'll be that as much as Kalen DeBoer is going to listen to Ryan Grubb on game planning, and they're both, Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb, will have more respect for the quarterback that they're using this year, because the quarterback is going to be 17,000 times better than Jalen Miller was in that system. Look, guys, I'm sorry, winning 9 games with Jalen Miller at quarterback last year, given the system Kalen DeBoer runs, was a miracle. I know you guys are going to be like, well, Nick Saban took him to the playoffs 2 years ago. Well, Nick Saban ran a different offense, and he adjusted the offense. And by the way, it was so mentally taxing on Nick Saban to adjust that offense, it forced him to retire. Okay, so it was, I actually still maintain that might have been an emotional decision by Saban because of how much he was mentally drained trying to get that offense to work with Jalen Milroe. And Kalen DeBoer is coming in and saying, obviously, he wants to install his own offense, but he has to start Milroe. So he says, let's stay above water for a year with this quarterback who's not a fit for my system, but the players love him. And then we'll kind of nudge him to leave for the NFL after this year, which is exactly what happened. So he's
I don't think he was nudged. I think he was like, you got to go because you're not going to start. I mean, anybody that's a true competitor is going to say, when you say I'm not going to start next year, I'm out. I mean, you can call that nudged if you want to, but I think that's kicking your butt out the door.
I think you're probably right. I think that's exactly what happened because you and I saw it. How bad. And Tim Banks, and by the way, we questioned why Tim Banks is such a good defensive coordinator. Tim Banks literally laid the blueprint for how to shut down Jalen Milroe, didn't he? Which is, if you have edge rushers and you play the high safeties in a zone, he can't do anything at that point. And that's a disaster for Kalen DeBoer's offense, which uses the air raid to milk the zone a lot of times. So I think with Ryan Grubb back with Kalen DeBoer, which will help give Kalen DeBoer another voice in the room to run this offense, and with the right quarterback, I mean, guys, I don't know. I feel like we're just forgetting about how good Alabama still is, honestly, and that they're right there in the mix with anybody talent-wise.
Well, remember this too. With Grubb, he was with the Seattle Seahawks. So I think this is overblown a little bit in recruiting, but I do believe that kids like, if all things are equal, kids prefer a guy that has NFL experience. I think it's a little overblown, but I think it's a factor in recruiting.
It is. And the NFL experience can do more things for you than people realize. Nick Saban learned about the what you've always talked about, the advantage of the analyst. He learned about that with his time as an NFL head coach. I mean, that's where he got the idea.
Now, and I hadn't put 2 and 2 together. That was a great point. Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank. So you say bank on it. The rest of the SEC should be scared about the Grubb hire.
Yes, bank on it.
I have to agree.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions.
Where do you think Alabama's offense was ranked last year in scoring offense in the SEC?
My guess is in the 7 to 10 range.
Third.
So it was third.
Yeah.
That's a major testament to Kalen DeBoer and what he did with the quarterback that didn't fit.
I agree. The only two, and no, you're right. The only two teams above him would have been Tennessee and Ole Miss. Ole Miss was 1, Tennessee 2.
See, guys, that's incredible. That's incredible. Given how little of a fit Milroe was for this offense. I'm telling you guys, you should fear Alabama next year. Kalen DeBoer's success, it's translated to everywhere he's been. And he did not have the fit for what he wanted to do this past year. So, look, I think that if I were to circle the biggest threat to Tennessee, I would say it's now Alabama over Georgia, honestly. I think Alabama is by far their toughest game next year. I don't think it's close.
Well, especially with what I'm hearing out of Athens, and that is they expect people to take the discount. And that's not going to happen. I mean, people just are not going to do that anymore.